Chapter 17 Cider and Secrets.
I'm going to take such good care of you, little turtle.
Paps, that's a half-green apple dressed up like a turtle. You're supposed to eat it.
Reader, how could you suggest I eat my newly acquired pet?
It's a fruit. Honest. Just look under it.
Look under my pet at his you-know-whats. We've just met. It would be unbecoming.
You know Papyrus was messing with you. At least, you hope he knew that carved green apple wasn't a real animal. Sans wasn't saying a word, just chuckling as the three of you stood at the farmer's market. Today was an outing which you knew would be more enjoyable. Papyrus was always trying to learn new recipes and create new foods, so this was the idea you gave them, both jumping at it. You all came early in the morning to avoid the larger crowd. Monsters were familiar to people, but your best friends weren't crazy about crowds or stairs. The first stand you came upon sold apples, and at the counter there were cut green apples using green grapes to make the fruits look like adorable green turtles. Sans tossed a $5 bill onto the counter before grabbing one and tossing it into his mouth. Papyrus gave a horrifying stare as he clutched his own fake turtle.
Sans, how could you?
Hey bro, I'm just trying out some of this stuff. You know, get out of my shell.
Ugh, and now you infect my pet with puns.
Let's move on, he said with a grin, seeing the girl behind the counter also smiling. Your friends might look scary, but once they got into their banter, most people actually found them amusing. The next stand had even more adorable food. Cauliflower, which looked like sheep thanks to a mushroom being used as a head, and celery sticks as legs. With much heartfelt apologies, Papyrus ate his pet, so he had room for his new pet sheep. The whole morning went that way, trying samples of foods, weird-shaped foods, and sometimes buying ingredients for cooking later. As the crowd got larger, and you noticed Sans clenching his hands a couple of times, you called it a day and headed to a nearby cafe. They had homemade cider all three of you tried, relaxing from the day. You found yourself staring at the amber liquid, swirling it as your mind wandered. You okay, kid? You jerked out of your thoughts, looking up at Sans, the red eyes studying you with concern. Papyrus was giving you the same look as he sipped his drink. Yeah, Tiffany's dad showed up at the mansion. I think I said something stupid. I practically promised I'd get her back for him, but I'm kind of hitting a roadblock when it comes to figuring out how to do it. I mean, I still don't know the pattern as to why the machine picked those four to take. Sans simply stared at you for a full minute, then took a giant chug of his cider, unlike the comforting sips he had before. When the glass mug was empty, he slammed it onto the table, nearly breaking the glass. Both you and Papyrus jumped a little, startled, staring at Sans. The stout skeleton gave a belch before going slack in his chair and staring at the sky. You realized then just how stupid you were being. Of course your friends didn't want to hear about Tiffany on an outing when you were supposed to have fun. Hey, Sans, just ignore me, okay? I mean, we can talk about something. I know the pattern, Sans interrupted, hand reaching up to pull at his hole. You quickly grabbed the arm, concern of him hurting himself, making you ignore the words he said. Then, as you pulled his arm towards you and grabbed his hand, your eyes widened as finally your brain caught on to what was said. Sans's red eye moved from looking up towards you, a smirk coming onto his fanged mouth as his large hand squeezed yours. Sorry, kid. Hope I didn't one-up ya by solving it first. Sans, that's amazing. I mean, you weren't even part of the team to fix the machine and you figured it out?
Of course, Sans is the best there is. Well, second place to me, of course,
Papyrus said with a proud grin from his jagged teeth. Easy on the compliment, guys. In all fairness, I overheard some very private information which you probably would never have learned about. Monsters don't like talking about their soul bonds much. It's a sensitive topic. What does the soul bonds with Tiffany have to do with this? You asked, feeling slightly frustrated. If that was the key to the pattern, then no wonder you were clueless. You barely knew a thing about soul bonds. It's simple, really. With each pair of brothers, the machine pulled the one brother who had the strongest soul bond link. Classic Sans' soul bond was stronger than Classic Pap's. Edge's soul bond was stronger than Red's, and Mutt's soul bond was stronger than Black's. The only exception was the Swap brothers. Stretch was toast and Blue's soul bond was pretty weak. So, Tiffany got pulled into the void because she was closest to the machine. Then, a strain was put onto the soul bonds as they were used to try to drag the other skeletons in. For those with weaker ones, the soul bonds just snapped. For those soul bonds strong enough, though, it caused them to get pulled with her. You had the answer. This was the last piece of the puzzle. With it, you knew you could get the others back. There was just one last question you had. Sans, though, already answered, seeing it in your eyes. I know I could have told you sooner, kid, but I was scared for you. I didn't want us getting those assholes back until we knew for sure you'd be okay. Sans said, hand squeezing yours even tighter. Papyrus gave his own nod, reaching for your other hand and squeezing it. The show of wanting to protect you made you a little misty-eyed. Reader, what do you want? You had an answer now. Maybe not a whole answer, but at least part of one.
I have to admit, I was also afraid. But worry not. When you do bring them back, me and my brother will be here to make sure you're safe.
Thanks, guys, but that's not happening. The words were accompanied with you pulling your hands back and getting up. You refused to let your voice waver as you spoke. We're now putting Project Battering Ram into motion, because getting you guys home to rescue your kingdom takes priority. The others can wait until then. What did you want? The answer was simple. You wanted to help your friends. Right? Say it back to me again. Oh, come on, kid. We said it to you twice already.
Now, Sans, our human is just worried. Let's humor him.
Geez, okay. I take the battering ram device, put it around 5 feet in front of the barrier, and turn the knob a quarter way right, then hit the red button. And then do the moonwalk.
Sans.
Sans. Heh, just kidding. I make sure to get at least 100 feet away from it before the 10-minute timer runs out. And when it destroys the barrier, what do you do then? I go to the county government center with all this crazy paperwork you made me fill out, asking for asylum for myself and the other monsters. Also contact those non-profit humanitarian groups you listed about what us monsters need help with. And make sure to wear clothing everywhere and cover your face. You won't be able to just shortcut around town since you haven't been there before.
I still don't know why I can't be the one to deliver the papers.
I can still shortcut back to the mountain, bro, if things look bad.
Yes, but I'm so much better at speaking with people.
It's okay, bro. I'll ink through it.
Don't you dare start off the asylum request with a pun. You'll start another war.
So let's talk about the worst-case scenario, you said, glancing at the newly built machine. The 3 of you were in the basement, a backpack being carried by Sans with all the things they would need. You were half excited and half scared. Excited that all the work you've been putting into this was finally going to come to fruition. Scared because you wouldn't be there to help Sans and Papyrus when they got there. Scared of how you would be here without them. Maybe it was fairer to say you were mostly just scared. If the battering ram device doesn't break the barrier, you guys use the notes I gave you to fix your own machine in Sans' basement. Then we can use it to communicate and deliver stuff to each other. Figure out why my invention didn't work, you said. You felt a little thrilled at saying my invention. Holy crap, you made an invention. A barrier-breaking badass invention. At least, you hope to God it worked and breaks the barrier. The two skeletons exchanged a look you couldn't interpret before turning back and nodding. So, so I guess this is, goodbye, he said, voice shaky at the end of the words. You internally cursed at not sounding more confident. The fear was still there, and you must have been doing a lousy job of hiding it because you suddenly found two giant bodies lifting you up and hugging you. Sans had his big arms around your waist, and Papyrus had his thinner ones circling your torso. The three of you simply stayed like that for a few minutes, your whole body cocooned in warmth, with Sans affectionately rubbing your shoulder with his cheek, Papyrus doing the same with his chin on your head.
Are you sure you don't want to come to our world once we have the barrier down?
Papyrus whispered the question as he squeezed you against his large chest. Yeah, I'm sure, you said, giving his shoulder a pat. You had more time to think about Blue's question, to think about what you wanted to do going forward, and an idea was forming. You already checked with the ambassador about it, and they were all for the half-baked plan you came up with. Just remember, kid, you can always change your mind. We'll only be one-dimensional jump away if you need us. Sans whispered in your ear before nuzzling you again, this time on your bare neck, causing you to blush. The feel of his warm breath and cheek sliding along your flesh felt nice. You heard a chuckle from the stouter skeleton as the two let go. Papyrus was rolling eyes while Sans looked smug. Right, you said with a cough, pointing at a spot in front of the machine. Stand over there and let's get started, you said, turning to the controls on the wall. All it took was a pressing of 3 buttons. It wasn't like in the movies. There was no hole in space and time appearing with a dozen lights. There was simply a flash of white light, like a camera going off in the dark. Then, they weren't there. You stared at the empty spot for a minute, finding it hard to believe they were gone, simply because of how unimpressive the exit was. Then, you took a deep breath and squared your shoulders, turning to the exit. I can do this, you said to yourself, trying your best to stay determined. You found yourself in the kitchen doorway, watching Classic Paps cooking beef tacos for tonight. You hadn't seen tacos cooked in quite a while now that you thought about it. Blue used to insist on cooking it weekly before everything fell apart. Maybe Classic Paps was finally noticing, and this was his way of reminding Blue about his favorite food. You stood there just watching him as he seasoned the beef on the skillet, shredding cheddar cheese and expertly chopping vegetables. He was definitely a different monster from the one who burnt pasta and smashed tomatoes. Finally, Classic Paps caught on to you watching, smile in place. The forehead, though, wrinkled slightly in concern.
Ha, Rita! How goes your day?
Great, I guess, you said, and winced when you realized how weird you were acting. You had basically been staring at him for over 10 minutes creepily, and even your words sounded strange to you, like you weren't even sure what you should say to a simple question.
Rita, is something wrong?
Classic Paps asked, removing the apron to show a shirt with the words, "Don't hate me because I can't sunburn." The words made you smile, and Classic Pap's own smile looked more genuine as he noticed your reaction.
Like it, Rita? I'm trying to broaden my wardrobe. Humans appear to find me more approachable when I wear this type of clothing.
It's awesome, Paps, you said, forgetting his nickname. The skeleton's cheeks turned orange as he coughed.
Yes, well, Rita, you can help me cook if you want.
Sure thing. Mind if I handle the cheese grating? You asked, since it appeared to be the simplest thing to work on.
Of course,
Classic Pap said, putting his apron back on and moving to the cutting board. You grabbed a chunk of cheddar cheese and began grating it against the metal grater. This brought up the memory of when you helped Classic Paps make spaghetti on your last day at the mansion. How it was considered a win to even get someone at the mansion to even want to spend time with you. How it used to be so hard just to get any of them to talk to you. Your shoulders were shaking, and your hands suddenly became unsteady, doing a lousy job of grating the cheese. Larger hands suddenly appeared and gently plucked the cheese, placing it on the counter. Warm breath brushing your scalp, the only clue of what was happening before arms circled you and you found yourself leaning against something warm and firm. A bony chin rested on your head. Seriously, what was with papyruses wanting to use your head as a pillow?
I think that's enough grating for now,
Said a soft voice. You felt yourself gently squeezed against warm flesh, and the shaking stopped.
Do you want to talk about it?
My best friends left, you said, eyes watering slightly. You hastily wiped them with a sleeve. You didn't want to start crying. You were already acting too weird. There was a quick intake of breath above you.
I see. So you got the machine working and sent them home with that invention called
Battering ram, you said proudly, finding yourself leaning further back. You couldn't help it. He felt warm and solid.
Ah, yes. I can understand why you three wanted the goodbyes and exit done in private. The rest of us didn't exactly make them feel welcomed.
Classic Pap said, voice still soft. A frown crossed your own lips, being reminded you weren't the only one ostracized. No, you guys didn't, you said, now not so comfortable. You tried to pull away, but the strong arms got tighter, the movement appearing desperate with the way Classic Pap's breath quickened.
But we are still friends, right? You accepted my card,
he said, now shaking a little as well as he held you. You thought of the colorful card currently sitting on your desk, and you relaxed back against Classic Pap's. In turn, the grip loosened, and you heard a sigh of relief above you. Yeah, we're friends, you said with your own sigh. At least until Tiffany gets back.
I won't let her break it, Rita.
You weren't sure what nearly made you jump, the way the words went back to full volume or how he appeared to know exactly what you were thinking.
I won't let her break our friendship. Things will not go back to the way they used to be,
Classic Pap said, making the words sound like an oath. He wanted to give assurance you believed him, but it felt too much like a lie. You still wanted to show some sign of trust, though. Say something to show you recognized the friendship. Would you like to be called Papyrus now? I mean, there won't be any confusion now if we do.
Do you want to call me Papyrus?
Yes. I'd like to call you Papyrus, you said, and meant it. The nickname Classic Paps reminded you too much of the old feelings of resentment you used to have for him. A cheek touched against your cheek, and you gulped as you felt your whole body being rubbed. Groin grinding softly against your butt, and thick chest muscles flexing as torso arched downward to push against you.
Then we're agreed. I'm your Papyrus,
the skeleton said, excitement in the words even if they were whispered. To say you felt you were losing control of the situation was an understatement.